This just in, did you know that we can experience and relive social pain more vividly than physical pain? What I'm saying is that recent studies show that rejection is more painful than many forms of physical pain because, so this study tells us, we're tribal animals, and rejection offers such an existential threat to us that it ripples through us and lives in us, echoing through our nervous system for years and years. Did you know that even, this is true, and this will blow your mind, that people asked to recall an experience of rejection, then invited to take an IQ test, will score significantly lower than they regularly do? You know, I don't know, I'm not a scientist, you know that about me, right? But the fact remains that rejection has a powerful impact on people. It shows in a sense, doesn't it, that the more we examine the idea of our individual identity, the more we recognise that there are aspects of ourselves that actually live within others. We know, of course, that we require the air that we breathe, and the air that we breathe is external and internal to us. Well, perhaps we live too somewhat in the impressions of others, or at least in our relationship with others, in this interface between ourself and another. Tribal animals continually requiring support and community. What happens then when we live in systems and societies that continually pit us against one another? What happens when our values are eroded? What happens when our means for connection continually break down, only to be replaced by commodified spaces such as the one you're using right now? Cyberspace has become corporate territory, a place for your data to be harnessed and harvested so we can be more accurately marketed at. What are we going to do to overcome this experience of rejection? Well, let me tell you, some of the tools that I've been freely given in my life may be useful to you. All of us bear the wounds of our past. All of us bear the injuries of our early lives, whether it's parental or familial rejection, heartbreak or rejection from friends, or a broader sense of not being accepted into a tribe, group or community. The one way we can overcome it is by acknowledging the problem, believing we can overcome the problem, asking for help to overcome the problem, inventorying the specific facets of our pain. Me, I've experienced a lot of rejection in my life of all of the forms that I've just outlined: social rejection, romantic rejection, familial rejection, school, work, all over the place. What it made me do is question the direction of my life. It made me question what my values were. You see, there's enough people in the world, there's enough tribes and groups for all of us to have a sense of belonging, for all of us to have meaningful connections, but often we're not connected to ourselves. So I think that we vibrate on a kind of disingenuous, or what do I want to say, we don't chime right, we're not ringing true, we're not connected to who we really are, so we attract, cultivate, create relationships with people that are not authentic. What I'm saying is that the rejection that you've experienced, the pain that you've experienced, when reviewed through a spiritual lens, is seen as a necessary part of your evolution, not a mistake or some resentment that you harbour, rather a necessary part of your journey to discovering who you are and the kind of relationships that you really want to be in. Take an obvious example like heartbreak. When it happens, we feel eviscerated and lost, don't we? But subsequently we learn that within that relationship we were either not being our best selves or treating that other person right, or we were having to amend ourselves invisibly or pretend to be someone that we weren't. So the rejection can then be regarded as a kind of movement towards truth. Life is continually about these readjustments, about letting go of relationships, moving through groups, unless you're fortunate enough to be among a community or group that's growing with you, with whom you share a purpose strong enough to keep you connected. So I believe that the findings of the US Surgeon General saying that rejection is a worse sting than many forms of physical pain is true. But I also believe that pain, the wound, can be pursued to a new freedom, that from your wound can come salvation, can come growth. Many of us don't like to sit with rejection and pain. We avoid it, try to negate it, ignore it, instead of exploring it, being open to it. Pain and suffering can be, I suppose, like a furnace from which we can forge new selves, clearer purpose, new identity. Tribe is important, but there can be no external connection without first achieving inner connection. Many of us have not been correctly role modeled, not been shown how to be a man or a woman or whatever it is we want to be. So we lack a clarity, an inner clarity about what it is we're trying to achieve. We're carving out of the rock face an identity amidst limitless potential selves. I suppose, as always, what I'm telling you is that pain and suffering can be part of our personal cultivation, that we will be guided through these experiences to relationships, both friendships and romantic relationships, or all forms of relationship that are somehow more true, more faithful, have a better fidelity, if we can only learn not to dwell on rejection, but to learn from it, not to combine with it, not to identify overly with the pain, but to recognize that we're the experiencer of the pain, the witness of the pain, the witness of the rejection, that we can change, that we don't need to stay trapped permanently in these circumstances if they're unfulfilling. Otherwise, this kind of rejection and trauma, I reckon, can function as the pivot from which mad social crises and shoot-ups and like cultural vandalism and mayhem come. People that feel that they have no place in society, no meaningful connection. When you read about those school shootings, you feel, well, these people were disconnected. How many times when something like that happened before you acknowledge, yes, of course, there are gun control issues that I don't feel qualified to investigate, but necessarily too we have to consider that there are epidemic mental health issues that aren't down to the individual, but are rather socially induced mental health issues. Socially induced mental health issues. We're living in cultures that cultivate rejection and breakdown in order to create the perfect conditions for consuming continually dissatisfied and unhappy people. But in the margins, in the extremes, that model cannot succeed and it creates extreme action. That's my theory. If you've enjoyed this video, why not watch my videos on not feeling good enough or failure? Check them out here. Hello, I'm doing these new videos more frequently now. Please hit the notification button at the end of this video, because then you'll get like a little bell when I post a new video, and I'd like you to get a little bell when I post a video. Then I can, I don't know, be buzzing away in your pocket. Sounds like I'd be like a little pocket mosquito. Anyway, subscribe, click the bell, because I want more people to watch the YouTube videos. You specifically.